What's up, guys? My name is Ryan. This is the Kingsman Report. It's the news everyone ignores. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday or Thursday, November the 20th, 2019. Tonight I'm going to talk about Russia captures the Tomahawk missiles from the U.S. and Syria. There's also been a crypto breach, and I'm going to talk, of course, you see the thumbnail, and there's pictures of aliens because they're trying to push this agenda of aliens. So I'm going to talk about aliens and some other news. So stay tuned. I'm going to get everything situated, and then I'll be right back. So the first thing I want to talk about is this, for all my Oklahomies out there. This is from our state, and this was just released today. It says, Oklahoma court says cities may regulate medical marijuana. This is out of Oklahoma City. And it says the Oklahoma Supreme Court has ruled that cities may approve some regulations of medical marijuana industry. The court on Tuesday dismissed an appeal by the city of Broken Arrow in a case filed by marijuana grower Austin Miller. Miller said the city exceeded its authority in 2018 by adopting regulations including a $2,500 annual permit fee on dispensaries and allowing marijuana to only be grown indoors in industrial areas. The Supreme Court first overturned a district judge injunction blocking the rules. And it says now it is ruled that legislative amendments earlier this year to the voter-approved law allowing medical marijuana allows cities to use standard planning and zoning procedures, but not prevent marijuana businesses from opening. Miller's attorney, Ron Durbin, called this ruling a travesty because he said the amendments apply retroactively. An attorney for the city declined to comment. So I want to get that out of the way since, this is from the state that I'm in. And then I'm going to get into the news. Like I said, I'm going to talk about Russia capturing Tomahawk missiles in Syria and is planning countermeasures. And also another article about Russia. Russia to cut shares of U.S. dollar national wealth fund. And also I have some news about the president here is threatening higher tariffs if China doesn't make a trade deal. I think you're totally going at that the wrong way. They've already signed the Asia trade agreement. And, they're kind of, China bailed out Erdogan when he put tariffs on them. And then he has signed the trade deal, the Asia trade deal. So, it seems like they're kind of cutting us out of the picture. I have an article on, I'm going to call him Smollett, but Jussie Smollett files malicious prosecution counterclaim against the city of Chicago. And this one I think is just funny. Vegan sues Burger King for cooking Impossible Whopper on meat grill. That one is pretty weird in itself. And then I have one on an inmate ran an online scam from prison and made $1 million. So, if you're ever, were a victim of a Nigerian prince, this is a Nigerian prince, send, $100 or whatever, give us your bank account information. The money probably went to this guy. The reason you see the aliens in the thumbnail, it says alien life could be more common than previously thought. And I think as they get further to, creating this great delusion that I talked about in the Blue Beam video that I did, And, you know, where I told you about Warner von Braun's quote on the fake alien invasion, the more and more I'm noticing, and I'm sure other people are noticing, there's more talk about alien life and UFOs, and this type of stuff is all over the news. Then I have an article. Nearly 3 billion people have lost their freedom in the name of ensuring public order. And this has to do with the internet and its influence in our lives, whether it be political, emotionally, and how all that ties in together. And then the one on the Federal Reserve, because it says the Fed inside the and there's, if you look at the background of the thumbnail, you can see the Federal Reserve in the back. But the Federal Reserve is looking into developing a digital currency in the U.S. Powell confirms. So I talked in another video that I did where I asked the question, could Bitcoin be the one world currency? And it's, in my opinion, you know, it may not be Bitcoin per se, but cryptocurrency in general is traded on such a wide scale and on a world stage that it's already pretty predominant as far as cryptocurrency goes. And just, you know, if you take into consideration that when you get a paycheck and it's direct deposit into your account, you're basically just seeing digital numbers in your account. So, you know, not a whole lot of people carry around, you know, promissory notes anymore. So it would only make sense that the Federal Reserve is looking at developing a cryptocurrency. I also have an article here. On the thumbnail, you see that there was a crypto data breach. So this is a GateHub crypto wallet data breach. So I'll get into that. I talk a little bit about cryptocurrency on here. And then a teen used a remote control car to smuggle methamphetamines across the U.S. border, officials say. I'm going to read this article, and though I appreciate the young man's entrepreneurial spirit, he's totally going at this the wrong way, and they caught him with a whole lot of stuff, and he's probably looking at some time, most definitely. And then I have a funny one that I want to talk about, and you guys have probably seen this all over Facebook. If other people haven't talked about it, you know, you can look this up. And by the way, all the links of the things that I talk about on this live stream are in the link or in the description below, so you can click on the links and read this stuff for yourself. Basically, just reading news that's out there and people just kind of ignore it and look over it. This article is a hilarious moment. A vet finds a sick puppy on top of a shelf in a trashed surgery after the pooch was left alone for the night. So I'll get into that. It's pretty funny. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this first article here. It says Russia has captured a U.S. Tomahawk missile in Syria and is planning countermeasures. The key point, it says the Tomahawk is a bit outdated compared to today's supersonic and hypersonic weapons. And here's a tip: if you don't want the enemy to capture your weapons, then don't use them. But if you're afraid to use them because they might be captured, then what are good are they? I'm sure that's a typo. So, then what good are they? It says Russia is crowing that it has recovered America's Tomahawk cruise missiles that were launched in Syria but failed to explode. Russian officials have promised that examining 2 unexploded Tomahawks salvaged by the Syrians and turned over to Moscow would enable Russia to develop new jamming equipment. Having this missile in hand, we can clearly understand what channels of communications, information, and control, navigation, and range finding it has. And knowing all of these perimeters, we will be able to more effectively counter these cruise missiles at all stages of their combat deployment, said Vladimir. I guess his name is Mikhev, an advisor to the first deputy general director of Russia's state-owned Kret Electronics Group. Other Russian experiments said that the Tomahawks would yield secrets of the latest missile navigation systems. One called it a textbook on material science, a textbook on technologies falling from the skies. There's a Russian video here, allegedly the Tomahawk debris, though it's hard to be clear of what we are being shown or where the debris was found. It says perhaps Russia needs to crow about something. It's not clear how many missiles its air defense shot down. Russia claims many, while the Pentagon claims none. And other than downing one F-16s, Syria Russian-made air defense missiles have proven ineffective against repeated Israeli airstrikes. Well, let's assume Russia did in fact recover some Tomahawk missiles out of 59 missiles launched at Syria in April. It is possible one or two failed to explode and were recovered. High explosive weapons frequently don't explode, and 30% of Allied artillery shells fired during World War I at the Battle of the Somme might have been duds, while modern cluster bombs have a dud rate as high as 20%. The latest Block 4 version of the Tomahawk is not the 1980s Tomahawk of Ronald Reagan or Operation Desert Storm, but the Block 4 is almost a drone capable of loitering over a target while sending back imagery to ground controllers before being commanded to dive on a target. It is also capable of redirected while in flight to one of 15 pre-landed targets, or to set off GPS coordinates. Over 30 years, the navigation system and warheads was naturally have been upgraded. But it's still not Cold War subsonic cruise missile that seems a bit of a dinosaur when compared to the supersonic and hypersonic weapons that are being developed today. If Russia, which fields an impressive array of tactical missiles, needs to learn from the Tomahawk, then Moscow has problems, and Tomahawks have been in use for decades. It's hard to believe that Russia has ever gotten its hands on one until now. If it's just a question of jamming the Tomahawk, then the United States will modify the missile system to compensate for that jamming. It's the old chess game of electronic warfare. Whenever new radar and communication systems become vulnerable to jamming, then they are upgraded with new or anti-jam equipment. So the game goes on. So if you guys want to read more on that, you can check out the link in the description. It's just pretty interesting. Like this article is saying that it's decades old, and it would be surprising even to me if they didn't already have, the technology that to counteract all this stuff. So I mean, we'll see. From what I understand, their capabilities with their ICBMs are, up there. So I don't even see why it would even be important to them to get the information that way. Maybe they want to, reverse engineer and possibly use it on some of their stuff, but I'm sure they're just as advanced as we are. So the next article here, it says Russia to cut share of U.S. dollar and national wealth fund mulls other currencies. So Moscow, it says Russia will reduce the share of the U.S. dollar in its national wealth fund and is considering investing in other foreign currencies, including the Chinese yuan. Deputy Finance Minister Vladimir Kolochev said on Wednesday. It says Kolochev confirmed at Reuters report from earlier this month that Russia was planning to diversify its foreign currency holdings in 2020. He said the move was in part meant to shield Russia reserves from external risk. He did not give an exact figure of what the U.S. dollar shares would be trimmed to in the National Wealth Fund. The U.S. unit made up about 36% of the National Wealth Fund, or $124.5 billion, as of the end of October, according to Reuters calculations based on Finance Ministry data. And geopolitical risk are one of the key factors in determining the structure of National Wealth Fund, he told reporters on the sidelines of a conference in central Moscow. Russia had stepped up what it calls a de-dollarization process to reduce its dependence on the U.S. currency when Moscow relations with the West deteriorated over Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and its role in the Ukrainian crisis. I can say with certainty that the U.S. dollar share will be smaller, Kolochev said. Different currencies are being considered, including the yuan. The structure of Russia's international reserves has already changed, and the planned changes to the National Wealth Fund will bring its composition closer to that of the central bank's foreign currency reserves. We're just synchronizing more with the central bank. It says the euro accounted for 30.3% of the central bank reserves as of March 31st, and the US dollar share was 23.6%. The Chinese yuan accounted for 14.2%, and the pound for 6.6%. The Japanese yen, the Canadian dollar, and the Australian dollar altogether accounted for 7.1%. So to me, with everything that's going on as far as the trade deals that are being made in Asia, the routes being opened up in the Middle East into the UK and into Russia, and then China bailing out Erdogan. All these things kind of tell me that everyone's trying to get away from their dependency upon us as a nation, kind of like we're trying to do, or the president is trying to do with other nations as far as paying us back debts that they owe us. So I think we'll probably just see them try to take it a step further and just completely back away. And this is why I also believe that we'll drop a paper currency and we'll all go to a crypto, or a worldwide digital currency, or a worldwide currency that's not necessarily owned by every nation, but by some type of central banking system, where everything's logged on a blockchain. All the trades and transactions are kept and tracked. So I'm going to keep watching this also, because it seems that not only is the world shifting as far as allies being made, trade deals being made outside of our trade deals, but it seems like people are just sort of starting to back away from the U.S. And it's going to open up the door for our money to fall. It could probably send us into a recession, and I talked about all the repo rates that were going on, and the Fed recently just pumped a bunch of money into banks as of a few days ago, I believe. So they're kind of pumping more money into it to give the illusion like we're doing great, but it's just like you can print 100 different rare baseball cards, and that one is going to lose its value because of the multiple ones that are in circulation. So I am going to continue to watch what goes on in the financial system and what goes on with the trade deals, because it is, our country is dependent upon it. The strength of our dollar is dependent upon it, and the underhand deals and the backdoor deals that are being done without our knowledge or in secret will definitely affect our economy on a wider scale. And if whoever comes in after the president we have currently and changes a bunch of the policies, that will also have an effect on what happens to our nation economically. So, I said that I had an article here about the president threatens higher tariffs if China doesn't make a trade deal. And I don't think that he's going at this in the right way. I think if the more space he puts between us and them, it's going to cause an issue as far as them, really solidifying their Asia trade deal and putting ours aside. So kind of bullying somebody in to take a trade deal, I don't think is necessarily the right move. He may have plans on how he's going to do this, but this article, there's a picture of him there. It says President Trump threatened higher tariffs on Chinese goods if that country does not make a deal on trade. The comments came during a meeting with the president's cabinet on Tuesday, and the U.S. and China, the world's two largest economies, have been locked in an apparent stalemate in trade negotiations that have lasted nearly 2 years. If we don't make a deal with China, I'll just raise the tariffs even higher, he said in a meeting. Financial markets, which have proven reactive to developments, is ongoing. In the ongoing trade war, largely shrugged off his latest warning. The U.S. and China agreed to a Phase 1 trade deal in October, but Beijing and Washington have since sent mixed signals about how the countries will move forward. A spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry said earlier this month that both countries had agreed to cancel some existing tariffs simultaneously. Trump later said that he had not agreed to scrap the tariffs, lowering hopes for a deal. They'd like to have a rollback. I haven't agreed to anything, he said. The White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said Friday that the countries were getting close to reaching a trade deal. On Saturday, Chinese Vice Premier Liu He spoke with Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin and U.S. Trade Representatives Robert Lighthizer. The officials had constructive discussions, according to China's Commerce Ministry, and agreed to remain in close contact. The U.S. had imposed about $500 billion in Chinese goods, and China has retaliated with tariffs on about $110 billion in American products. It's just, to me, this has just turned into, one gigantic peeing match between all these guys, flexing on each other to, gain more power and more control. One thing I will say, I find it funny that he wants independence from other places here, and, to threaten another country to sign a trade deal in order to, in order to keep tariffs, raise tariffs to get a trade deal. I think that's just, it's insanity. But he is the president and I am not. So this one I found funny because of this whole deal here, the dude, so the guys that were involved in this with him, there was surveillance footage that came out of them buying the stuff that they used in this alleged assault. But now this guy, he files a malicious prosecution counterclaim against the city of Chicago. It says the actor claims that he was the victim of malicious prosecution and caused him humiliation, mental anguish, and extreme emotional distress. I'm sure you caused a lot of that stuff. Like, you totally brainwashed a bunch of people into thinking that this was fact until the facts actually came out. And then, for the police officers of Chicago that had to spend the time and money when they could be inside some of those gang-infested areas of Chicago, taking care of that stuff, because of who you are, you wasted, money and time of these investigators and police department that, to even do that, you should just let it go, bro. Just let it go. So it says, Jussie Smollett has filed a counterclaim against the city of Chicago. Several Chicago Police Department officers and brothers, Ascendario or I'm just going to call them the Ascendario brothers, claiming that he was a victim of malicious prosecution that claimed him humiliation, mental anguish, and extreme emotional distress. The filing document alleges that the Chicago PD obtained false and unreliable statements from the Ascendario brothers and used those statements as the basis for the complaint against Mr. Smollett. The document goes on to say that investigators ignoring evidence that contradicted those statements played a significant role in the commencement of proceedings against Smollett. The counterclaim demands that the city be barred from seeking reimbursement for the police investigation of Smollett's claim that he was a victim of a racist and homophobic attack, given its inequitable conduct in filing criminal charges against Mr. Smollett without probable cause and maliciously prosecuting him in bad faith. Smollett claimed that he was a victim of an assault in January, which he said was racially and politically motivated, as well as homophobic. Later, he was accused of hiring the Ascendario brothers, who attacked him and indicted for filing false statements. The criminal charges were dropped in March, and Smollett has maintained his innocence, but the city of Chicago has filed a $130,000 lawsuit against Smollett in order to recoup the cost of the police investigation, which they should. Dude, the whole thing was just absurd in my personal opinion. Like, it's just ridiculous. It says the records in Smollett's case were originally sealed, but a judge ordered in May that thousands of pages of documents on the case be released. Among the documents released were police statements from the brothers who claimed that Smollett paid them to stage the attack, as well as text messages from the office of Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx. Yeah, and the video footage of them going to the convenience store and buying the ski mask and the rope and the bleach and all that stuff. Like, you can't. What are you gonna argue with video footage where they caught you? You know, you can say that about the text messages and the other stuff like that, but they caught these guys on video purchasing the stuff that you said was used in this attack. Let it go. Just let it go, man. He says Gloria Schmidt, the attorney representing the brothers, called the counterclaim another sad attempt by Smollett to try to falsely smear the Oncedario brothers, the city of Chicago, and the Chicago Police Department. And she went on to say her clients have been open and honest with the Chicago Police Department. If you guys want to have, you know, a look at this article, you can check it out in the description below. It's just, you know, it amazes me that because, you know, you're famous or you have connections with certain political affiliates that you can just, you know, get away with whatever you want to. So this I thought was funny. I mean, I can see why it would be upsetting to vegans, especially if you have, you know, a strict diet where you don't eat meat at all. Myself, I'm more of like a poultritarian. I eat chicken and eggs, and I kind of stay away from, you know, red meat and stuff. But this article says vegan sues Burger King for cooking Impossible Whopper on meat grill. Which I haven't had this burger, but I mean, you can go into all the conspiracies about what's in the burger, and some of it's disgusting. But it says a vegan customer is suing Burger King for cooking its plant-based patties on the same grills it uses for meat. In a proposed claim action filed in the U.S., Philip Williams said the way Impossible Burger is grilled leaves it coated in meat byproducts. He said the burger's tagline, 100% Whopper, 0% beef, was misleading. Burger King did not comment, but the small print on the website says people wanting the meat-free option can request a non-broiler method of preparation. The microwave. A spokeswoman for the supplier, Impossible Foods, also told Reuters News agency that vegetarians and vegans are welcome to ask for their Impossible Whopper to be cooked in a microwave. I bet that tastes awesome. It says the lawsuit filed in Miami federal court. Mr. Williams says that the burger chain does not clearly advertise that the plant-based burger are cooked with meat. He said he visited a drive-thru restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, and ordered the Impossible Whopper without mayonnaise. At no point was he told the Whopper was cooked on the same grill as the meat burgers. He said, adding that had he known, he would have not ordered it. Then my advice is do not go. Okay, first of all, you know, if you're, I personally try not to eat out at any fast food restaurants. But if you're a vegan, why would you even? I mean, we don't necessarily know what's in all this food, and probably the amount of preservatives that's in it is totally going to squash your you know, your vegan mentality once you research what's in it. But my advice is, if you're a vegan or you eat like I do, you eat clean, don't go to fast food restaurants. Also, the handling of this fast food is not necessarily clean all the time. There's ample videos on YouTube and that go around Twitter and you know, different social medias of the way people treat food that work at these places. I'm not giving all these workers a bad name, but if you want to eat clean or vegan, my advice is don't eat at fast food restaurants. You had to know that this was, I mean, it's fast food. They're going to cook it as fast as they can to get it out to you. So my advice is just stay away from them. Then you won't have to, you know, make these silly lawsuits against corporations like this who have probably a lot more money than you do. It says, and this is what's even funny in this part of the article, Mr. Williams said he wanted damages for everyone in the U.S. who bought the Impossible Burger, as well as an injunction requiring Burger King to plainly disclose that the vegan burgers and meat burgers are cooked on the same grills. Burger King started selling the Impossible Whopper in Sweden in May before rolling it out to U.S. stores in August. It started selling the meatless burger in 25 other European countries earlier this month, according to Burger King's suggested pricing. The plant-based burger cost U.S. customers about $1 more than the beef version. Well, it looks as if, to me, you are getting meat byproducts on your vegan burgers. Like I said, they're trying to whip these things out fast. They're not paying attention if you're really about that vegan life. So this next article, and I'm sure you all probably seen the emails in your spam folders about send money. I'm a Nigerian prince or whatever, trying to scan you out of your bank account information. Give me your bank account information, I'll deposit this money into your account, or send me so much money. And yeah, it's so this guy here, this is an inmate ran an online scam from prison and made $1 million, authorities say. I'm not going to play the video, but it says a man serving 24 years in a Nigerian maximum security prison used a network of accomplices to conduct an international scam that brought in $1 million, officials said. I'm just going to call him Hope. I butcher or Mr. Aroke. But Hope Aroke was convicted of fraud 4 years ago and was held in a maximum security prison in Lagos after his conviction, according to Nigerian Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. While in prison, he worked with accomplices to commit fraud that targeted victims in various nations. The commission said in a statement Tuesday during that time he was taken to the hospital for an undisclosed illness, and instead of returning to prison, he ended up in hotels where he'd meet his wife and children and attended social functions, authorities said. Preliminary investigation revealed that the convict, against established standard practice, had access to the internet and mobile phone in the correctional center where he is supposed to be serving his jail term, the commission said. The circumstance of his admission into the hospital and those who aided his movement from the hospital to hotels and other social engagements is already being investigated. I'm going to call this guy Wilson. A spokesman for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission declined to provide details on how Aroke was able to attend social events and get perks as an inmate. He said he cannot say whether he paid off prison officials in the exchange for the brief freedom. I'm sure he did. All this under investigation. I cannot speculate, Warren said when CNN reached him by phone. To conduct his transactions, Aroke used a fake name, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but if you think you can, it is right here. To open 2 accounts. Authorities said he also bought homes in posh neighborhoods and a series of luxury cars registered to his wife's name, authorities said. Convict was also in possession of his wife's bank account token in prison, which he used to freely transfer funds. It says Aroke was arrested in 2012 for internet fraud after a return from Malaysia. At the time, he told his victims that he was a computer science student at the university in Kuala Lumpur, but he was the arrowhead of an intricate web of internet fraud scheme that traversed 2 continents. He was convicted and imprisoned 3 years later, and 2 counts of obtaining money by false pretense, check cloning, and wire transfer and forgery. In the latest scam, he targeted victims in various countries. He declined to provide details on what countries, citing an ongoing investigation. And like I always say, if you feel like you've been victim of, a cryptocurrency breach or a credit card scheme or any of those types of things, contact your credit card provider, contact your cryptocurrency wallet provider, and then try to handle it from there. But always look for signs like, obviously, strange purchases on the card, and I would recommend getting a card that, and most of them do this, that you can shut it down from the mobile app that they offer for a lot of them. So The aliens are in the picture there because it says alien life could be more common than previously thought. So, the more and more we get towards what a lot of us believe will be a fake alien invasion, in a way to kind of scare us into saying that, oh, well, a smarter or more intelligent being is the superior in the universe, and that we should follow and do what they say. My opinion on that is that it is the Nephilim, and that they are involved probably with people who practice the occult. If you read the Book of Enoch, and I mention this in a lot of my podcasts that I do, if you read the Book of Enoch, they're the ones that taught us sorcery, pharmakia, blacksmithing, even abortion. It's all mentioned in the Book of Enoch, is where we got this secret knowledge from. So to me, they're pushing this so that, they can pretty much hand over power to this Nephilim group, or the abomination, or that abominated creation where the fallen angels mated with the daughters of men. I think that this is what these things are, and some people may think that or believe in extraterrestrial beings. I look at them as interdimensional beings, spiritual entities, and we're all a host. We are a host body, and if you're not if you're not following light and you're steeped in the darkness, obviously you're more susceptible to this type of wickedness here on Earth. So this article goes into, while some in the scientific community believe finding extraterrestrial life is probably going to take a long time, others believe aliens could be more prevalent than previously thought. A new study suggests intelligent life is likely to inhabit a star system drastically different than ours. The researchers modeled a theoretical Earth into a binary star system and those two stars, and found that 87% of those exo-Earths should have the axis tilted similar to that of Earth, an important ingredient for intelligent life. Multiple star systems are common, and about 50% of the stars have binary companion stars. So this study can be applied to a large number of solar systems, said the study's co-author Yuanji Li in a statement. These types of discoveries have been made in the past, including most recently LTT 1445AB, a distant rocky exoplanet that has 3 stars. LTT 1445AB is about 22 light years from Earth, and in 2016 NASA discovered a planet orbiting 2 stars in the OGLE 2007 BLG 349 system, 8,000 light years away. A light year measured distance in space equals about 6 trillion miles. The researchers compared Earth tilt to the tilt of Mars, noting the extreme variations between the 2 planets, and then looked at what Earth might be like if it were the Alpha Centauri AB system, 4.4 light years away. So, if you've ever heard about the Alpha Centauri system, the space system, a lot of people believe that this is where the Greys come from. The people in the thumbnail that I posted. You can look more on that if you want to, but it says, using numerical modeling in a Centauri AB, we show the following. There is a stark contrast between the planetary obliquity variations depending on the host star. Planetary neighbors limit the possible spin state for Earth-like stumbling on that word. Obliquity, stability, and presence of a moon can destabilize the obliquity. I'm saying that totally wrong, I know I am. Defying our Earth-based expectations, the researchers added in a study. We simulated what it would be like around other binaries with multiple variations of the stars, masses, orbital qualities, and so on, said Billy Quarles, the study principal investigator, in the statement. The overall message was positive, but not for our nearest neighbor. Going out further into deep space, the results became more promising, leading the researchers to believe it's a possibility. In general, the separation between the stars is larger in binary systems, and then the second star has less of an effect on the model of Earth, Lee added. The planet's own motion dynamics dominate other influences, and obliquity, I'm saying that wrong, usually as a smaller variation, so this is quite optimistic. The study has been published in the scientific journal Astrophysical Journal and was funded by NASA's exobiology program. A comprehensive study published in June found no evidence of extraterrestrial life among more than 1,300 stars in close proximity to Earth, a hunt that spanned more than 3 years. A separate study published that month drastically cut the number of planets that could potentially host intelligent life. Noting the definition for the habitable zone, the distance between a planet and a star is likely limited relative to the microbial life. In October, a former NASA scientist published a stunning op-ed saying he's convinced that space agency found evidence of life on Mars in the 1970s. NASA has vehemently denied this claim. So if you guys want to check that out, you can look in the description for the link. I just think as more and more talk of extraterrestrial life, they're kind of just pushing it on us as a way for us to accept that it could be a possibility. And if it is a possibility, they're kind of preparing us for it. I think it's kind of like pre-programming us for it, kind of like they do in everything. So this article is kind of long. I don't want to read completely into it, but you'll kind of get the gist of it here. It says nearly 3 billion people have lost their freedom in the name of ensuring public order. Now what? So it says over the past year, 93% of people living in countries where federal elections were held were targeted by online interference, according to a new report documenting the global rise of digital authoritarianism. Social media is now tilting dangerously towards liberalism, a U.S.-based organization, Freedom House, warns. So it says Freedom on the Net found the vast majority of the 3.8 billion internet users worldwide live in countries where governments are using sophisticated technologies to turn social media into a tool for manipulation and social control. I believe they do this. That's why, it's called, they're pretty much desensitize us is what they're doing. So that's why we see videos of assaults and murders and police violence and attacks on certain religions and racial ethnicities. We see that to kind of desensitize us and normalize us to the fact that it affects our emotional state, and we produce a hatred and a bitterness for certain occupations like police departments and different races. And I say this in almost all of my videos that we need to put the color aside and think of each other as human beings. We all are a human race, and we're all here, and this life is a journey of self-discovery, and to have a spiritual experience in this host body while we're here on Earth. We can't allow, a lot of us spend time on the internet, social media, scouring the internet for news and bringing you guys news, but you can't let this stuff control or dictate your emotional state. If you do, then you just need to shut it down, step back and take a break from it. At one point I took a break of I think a year and a half. I didn't access Facebook. I wasn't on anything, just because it becomes so overwhelming that it just messes with it messes with your mindset. It can cause, if you read too much negative stuff, it can cause depression, it can cause anxiety. When the realities of it is that the majority of this stuff doesn't really even exist in our own personal lives, and some not even in the same city that we live in. But still, yet they want to desensitize us to the point to where it's just normalized and that we just accept it. So The article goes on to say the internet has given people access to information unimaginable in the past generations, and it has given marginalized communities the ability to communicate their positions and communicate with one another across all sorts of borders. David Kay, the United Nations Special Reporter on the promotion and protection of the right to freedom of opinion and expression and clinical professor of law at the University of California, Irvine, told National Observer, but, he added, it has indeed become a place of harm to individuals, communities, and public institutions. It says the Freedom House report, which tracks developments in internet access, freedom of expression, and privacy issues, found that internet freedom declined globally for the 9th year in a row, with online election interference and mass government surveillance affecting a majority of internet users in authoritarian regimes and democracies alike. Meanwhile, as disinformation and propaganda continue to pollute social media platforms and hijack political discourse, an increasing number of governments are exploiting the fight against fake news to enact laws and criminalize dissent and silence criticism, the report warns. While social media platforms have at times served as a level playing field for civic discussion, they are now tilting dangerously towards liberalism, exposing citizens to an unprecedented crackdown on the fundamental freedoms, the report says. According to the group's findings, more than 70% of the world's internet users live in countries where people were arrested or imprisoned for posting political, social, or religious speech online in the past year, and 65% live in countries where individuals suffer physical violence or death in retribution for their online activities. The Freedom House report is just the latest in a series of jarring reports highlighting how digital platforms are being used to undermine democracy and human rights around the world. In a separate report released this month, Chatham House warned online political campaigning techniques are distorting our democratic political processes. The report cited techniques including the spread of disinformation and divisive content on social media, exploitation of online algorithms, use of bots and fake accounts, and use of psychological profiling to micro-target content based on personal data collected through social media. To date, such techniques outpace regulatory initiatives, and the report concluded, and thus far, there is no international consensus on how they would be tackled. These conclusions mirror the findings outlined in a September 2019 report from the Computational Propaganda Project, the Oxford Internet Institute, titled the 2019 Global Inventory of Organized Social Media Manipulation. The report found evidence of organized social media manipulation campaigns which have taken place in 70 countries from 48 countries in 2018 and 28 countries in 2017. The report warned authoritarian regimes are increasingly using social media as a means of information control to suppress fundamental human rights, discredit political opponents, and drown out dissenting opinions. So here's a map, and you guys can see this on your screen, of the countries where there's more freedoms, more oppression, and it says us, Canada, Australia, and a lot of different areas do have freedoms more than other continents in the world. But if they do get their wishes as far as Agenda 2021 or Agenda 2030 goes, then you can look forward to seeing more of a suppression of online activity. Certain laws are wanting to pass. I covered an article that actually Dabu covered first, and I didn't catch it, and he's not even in the state, and I feel bad that even it slipped past me. But Oklahoma's trying to pass legislation, I think it's called State Bill 1080 here in Oklahoma, where they want to get away from the federal control over red flag laws, so the feds can't necessarily step in here and say, well, this person did something. Our state here wants to control the ability to do that and determine in a municipality who they deem a threat or shouldn't have certain firearms and things like that. So Agenda 2030 continues to be as progressive as it is. some of the articles that I read go along those lines, the ones that I've already covered, as far as the Asia trade agreement, Russia and Turkey opening up trade routes through the Middle East into Russia and the UK. They're still setting the foundation for that agenda, whether you want to believe it or not. And then certain states where liberalism or radical liberalism is, because not all liberals are, or what the media portrays them to be, and not all people are bad just because we have differences of opinion. You shouldn't judge people by those things. In this country, you have the rights and the freedoms to choose whatever you want to, but at least leave room for discussion. I don't jam my beliefs down people's throats, and I don't expect other people to do it to me. If we can all be respectful of one another, I think that we could get along a lot better and be more progressive as a human race, rather than the divisiveness. Because that whole point of divisiveness, separating of class, race, gender, all that is part of this agenda where they want us feuding amongst each other. And as we fight amongst each other, then they can continue to set the foundation for their takeover. So it's a distraction. This whole class separation and stuff, all that crap is a distraction from what we should be focused on, and that's supporting one another and lifting one another up, and away from all this stuff. So the article goes on, it says, of the 65 countries between June 2018 and May 2019, a record 47 countries were found to have arrested people for posting political, social, or religious speech online. I remember a while back, Facebook was really, really bad. If you posted too much, Bible verses, scripture, or whatever, they would block you. It was really bad they were doing that, and that was a few years ago. They're not so bad about it now, but they still, I know some people, they still do it too. It says, according to Freedom House, it says more than 7 in 10 internet users worldwide live in one of those countries. In at least 31 countries, users suffered physical violence and retribution for their online activities, and 40 countries featured advanced social media surveillance programs. And in a record 38 countries, political leaders use bots and fake accounts to covertly manipulate public opinion. Over the past year, 93% of people living in countries where federal elections were held were targeted by online interference, according to a new report documenting the global rise of digital authoritarianism. Overall, internet freedom declined in 33 of 65 countries surveyed, while just 16 registered improvements. For the 4th consecutive year, China was the world's first abuser of the internet freedom, while Iceland was rated its best protector. Canada ranked among the top 5 countries for internet freedom, with limited obstacles to access and very few limits on content or violations of user rights. Still, there exists a stark rural-urban divide in access to reliable and affordable internet services, especially in Canada's northern territories, and concerns about mass surveillance are mounting. It says the findings come on the heels of Canada's federal election and the related debate over how to best protect election integrity and defense against foreign interference in the democratic process. The federal government has acknowledged some attempts to interfere in the election were detected, but said those attempts did not meet the threshold for public reporting. So this goes through, if you guys want to read this, the article basically just talks about misinformation, disinformation, political influence, social media. Here in this country, one thing I'll say is, whether you're conservative or liberal, the Facebook in this country, the social medias in this country lean more towards the liberalism, and they shadow ban and they throttle down a lot of people who have conservative views, or just conservative morals, biblical morals and principles. Those people are kind of shot down more than people with like kind of a radicalized liberalism view on life. And I'm not, like I said earlier, not all liberals are insane. I know I'm friends with all types of people. I don't let politics, for one, if you're letting politics divide your friendships without being responsible and mature enough to have a discussion about it, you probably ought to check yourself first. And then secondly, I wouldn't surround myself with people who are just over vocalized or demanding that you subject yourself to their concerns, their beliefs, their ideology. Find people who are open-minded, who are willing to listen and talk reasonably with you. You don't need to surround yourself with negative people in the first place. If they want to be like that, let them be unhappy in their own way. They don't have to. They don't have to involve you in it. But it seems that misery loves company, and people who are miserable they want to make the people around them miserable. So I talked a little bit about, or I mentioned an article in the beginning, that the Federal Reserve is looking into developing a digital currency, and I told you I did a video on asking the question, could Bitcoin be the one world currency, like it's talked about in the Book of Revelation. And I always speculated that, because of the fluctuation in the market and the hyperinflation, deflation of the dollar, and the economic rise and falls and the strength of our dollar, and then it devaluates, all those things. The only thing that would make sense as far as having it but the value goes up and down would be a type of cryptocurrency. So you can have so many satoshis is 48 cents. Well, you can still have that amount of satoshis, but that value of a satoshi is like the minuscule part of it's like a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can still have that same amount of satoshis, for instance, but the value depreciates or it just fluctuates. It goes up and it goes down, but the amount will remain the same. It's just the value of it will go up and down. So instead of, which is kind of, it's pretty much, a dollar's a dollar here. So you can't say, well, this is worth $1, but the value to us is, well, this is $1, so it's $1. Well, with that, it can, you can have one Bitcoin, and one day it's $10,000, and then the next day it's $9,000, but you still have one coin. So this would make sense as far as that goes. But my only fear in that is if it's controlled by a centralized banking system like the Federal Reserve, is that they could control the value of it. So I believe, at the end of the day, the currency should be regulated by the people, dependent upon the trade, the amount that's in circulation, kind of like how cryptocurrencies are now. But this article says the Federal Reserve is looking into developing a digital currency in the U.S. Powell confirms. It says U.S. central bankers have explored the possibility of developing digital currency that would be directly available to businesses and households. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell confirmed to lawmakers this week. While we are not currently developing a central bank digital currency, we have assessed and we continue to carefully analyze the cost and benefit of pursuing such an initiative in the U.S., Powell wrote in a letter to lawmakers dated Tuesday. Digital currency backed by a central bank in the largest economy would be unprecedented and raise a host of legal and operational questions. Powell said it would be closely considered by policymakers, but added that the U.S. could be in some ways better positioned than other countries that have looked into such proposals. We are carefully monitoring the activities of other central banks to identify potential benefits that may be relevant in the U.S. context, he wrote. To date, our observation is that many of the challenges they hope to address do not apply to the U.S. The letter was a response to questions raised by Republican Representative French Hill of Arkansas and Democratic Representative Bill Foster of Illinois, who in September said the central bank should consider a U.S.-backed cryptocurrency to remain competitive. We are concerned that the primacy of the U.S. dollar could be long-term could be in a long-term jeopardy for wide adoption of digital fiat currencies, the lawmakers wrote in an initial letter to Powell, adding that it may become increasingly imperative that the Federal Reserve take up the project of developing a U.S. dollar digital currency. Digital currency proposals have emerged throughout the private sector over the past years, including at Facebook, JP Morgan, and Wells Fargo, though some policymakers have flagged them as potential risk to monetary policy and financial regulations. I think we agree that Libra raises a lot of serious concerns, and those would include around privacy, money laundering, consumer protection, financial stability. Powell said in July of the digital coin announced by Facebook last year, which was a total flop. Those are going to need to be thoroughly and publicly assessed and evaluated before this proceeds. So if you guys want to look more into that when you can, it's posted in the description below. But what I find funny about all of it is that they're still wanting to know the ins and outs of what's going on with Bitcoin. Obviously, I think that they could do this if they ran it on a blockchain. I think even if they ran the way votes are tallied on a blockchain, I think that would be, if you're going to experiment on something, I think that would even be first way to go. Test out voting on a blockchain. And then if this is where you want to go, which I definitely see this being imperative in the future, as far as having a digital wallet on your phone and being able to buy, sell, and trade from your phone, which at the end of the day, it's going to be a chip in your hand if the ID 2020 Alliance gets their wishes. So you guys can read more into that. I just think it's interesting. They're talking more about in relation to taxing cryptocurrency sales, wanting to know what's going on with the cryptocurrency kiosk in cities all over the country, why people are cashing in Bitcoin at kiosk. They want to know what illegal activities people are participating in by using cryptocurrencies. So on the topic of cryptocurrencies, this article says GateHub crypto wallet data breach compromises passwords of 1.4 million users. So security researchers behind the data breach index site have been pawned, said the password data and personal information of 2.2 million users of two websites have been dumped online. Yesterday I mentioned that Disney Plus got hacked and a lot of people's information was being sold on the dark web for as little as $3, and they were taking cryptocurrency, Bitcoin for instance, as a way to purchase that information. But it says on November 19, Ars Technica reported that security researcher Troy Hunt confirmed the compromised data belonged to accounts of cryptocurrency wallet GateHub and RuneScape bot provider EpicBot. A total of 2.2 million accounts were breached. According to Hunt, the first haul included personal information for as many as 1.4 million users' accounts from GateHub cryptocurrency wallet. The second contained data for about 800,000 users' accounts on the self-proclaimed world's safest all-in-one RuneScape bot provider, EpicBot. The stolen information reportedly includes registered email addresses, passwords, two-factor authentication keys, mnemonic phases, and wallet hashes. GateHub officials said that the wallet hashes were not accessed according to what an investigation has suggested. It is not the first time GateHub had to endure a data breach. In June, hackers were reportedly able to compromise around 100 XRP Ledger wallets, which resulted in nearly $10 million in stolen funds. Also in June, GateHub warned that there was a phishing scam campaign targeted in its cryptocurrency wallet users. According to the company, GateHub's wallet users were receiving malicious emails from addresses that looked like they were from GateHub at gatehub.com and gatehub.net. Cointelegraph contacted GateHub regarding these latest developments but had not yet received a response as of present time. This article will be updated if new comments come in. And then this gives, a little information right here. It says, as technology and security improve, where was that? As technology and security improve, hackers have gotten correspondingly more creative with the scams and hacks they carry out. One of the more disastrous hacks in recent years was the Slovenian-based Bitcoin mining marketplace NiceHash. A hacker stole approximately 4,700 Bitcoin, worth about 64 million, at the time of the hack in December 2017. The platform called the security breach a highly skilled and organized attack that was carried out with sophisticated social engineering. Don't ever, for one, I'm going to say this: don't ever use any online free Bitcoin mining apps. Don't do that. If you, I think Windows offers a Bitcoin mining. It's a Satoshi mining application you can get for Windows if you want to use it. Windows recently changed their, I guess, the way that they're able to use it. So it used to be GPU, CPU mining, but now it's basically cloud mining. It's secure as far as I could see. Like I said, I mess around with it, kind of like penny stocks, but I don't really, I don't invest a lot in it. I don't use it for things like that. But if you think you've been a victim of this, contact, GateHub, and if you see anything, going on that you haven't okayed inside your crypto wallet, then, contact them and make a complaint there. So I mentioned this at the beginning, and I don't necessarily know, the young man's motive behind this, or who he's indebted with that would cause something like this. Or if, maybe, like I said, he has an entrepreneurial spirit and he was looking for some fast money. But whatever he was doing, he got busted. And now, because of this, he's probably going to face a lot of time for this. And I mean a lot of time. If you wait till you see the amount of drugs he was caught with, it's incredible. So this article says, teen used remote-controlled car to smuggle meth across U.S. border, officials say. So it says a 16-year-old boy allegedly tried to smuggle methamphetamine across the U.S.-Mexico border with a remote-controlled car. U.S. Border Patrol agents arrested the teen Sunday, according to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection News released Tuesday. The drugs have an estimated value of $106,000, the release said. This attempt comes 2 years after drug traffickers flew a remote-controlled drone to drop 13-pound package of the same substance across the border, also resulting in an arrest. I am extremely proud of the agents' heightened vigilance and hard work in stopping this unusual smuggling scheme, said San Diego Sector Chief Patrol Agent Douglas Harrison. Agents first saw the boy walking along the secondary border wall with 2 duffel bags, and shortly after midnight Sunday, the release said. They eventually found the teen, identified as a U.S. citizen, hiding in the brush. Obviously, they're not going to release his name. He's a minor. He had 50 bundles of the substance weighing about 56 pounds, according to the release, along with a remote-controlled car. He is facing drug smuggling charges, authorities said. So, I thought that article was absolutely insane. Like I said, I don't know what was going on with. You would need to, get that amount of money that fast, but I mean, come on, bro. I'll give you this advice. You have a motive for, potentially doing something good with your life. I mean, you have the obviously you have the, what word am I looking for here? I mean, you have the business mindset, you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you have the energy to go out and do stuff like this. But I'm going to tell you this, man, use that energy and that motivation and go out there and start you a business. Do something aside from this. This is just, you got yourself in a lot of trouble, and this blemish is not going to look good. If they seal your record, before you become an adult, you might be alright, but I mean, that's a lot, dude. And now you got eyes on you, and you're, you know, a blip on their radar, and that's never a good thing. So I talked about all that crazy stuff. So I'm going to talk about this because this was going around on social media, and I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this. There is a video attached, and I don't know if they'll, you know, copyright strike me for it or not. They're pretty hardcore about doing that. By the way, Q is dropping a lot of drops today, if you guys are paying attention to that or you're into the whole QAnon stuff. But this is a hilarious moment. Vet finds sick puppy on top of a shelf in a trashed surgery after the pooch was left alone for the night. So it says a sick puppy managed to escape her cage while being kept overnight in a vet's office, leaving quite the mess in the morning for staff to clean up. It says somehow the cute pup was able to get out of her container and began running around and jumping all over the small office. By the time morning came around, the vet opened the door to find the office, door to the office, and found chaos. So you could see, you know, right there, here's the pictures of it, but the dog, like, it got up on the, somehow got on top of, like, the very high cabinets, and the cage was right beneath the dog, so it somehow did all this disastrous stuff, and then it climbed out of its cage and on top of this, the housing for the crates. But it says it looked as though the place had been ransacked with papers, boxes, and various other objects strewn about the floor. The cage door appeared to have been flung wide open, and then as the camera panned upwards, the culprit was revealed. An innocent-looking black and white dog could be seen peering down from the top shelf. "Oh, hey there, what you doing?" asks the vet as she opens the door. The dog looks on coyly. She was not hurt, very scared, but very sweet. She was able to come down and snuggle with one of the techs, and the vet wrote on a YouTube posting. So you could see the picture there, where the hand is on the mouse, but that's where her cage was flung open. And here you can see where she flung the cage door open, was on top of this. I don't know how this dog managed to do that, but it's pretty amazing. So she is happy and healthy. Her situation helped us make sure that it never happens again, to keep other patients safe. One of a kind patient. So glad I was able to help her feeling better and able to help her to trust me. The cage was chained, but she was smarter than the cage and apparently the staff. The video generated some amusing comments from online users, and then you can see the quotes there. Didn't do nothing, wrote one viewer, and another one wrote, "What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm trying to avoid getting torn to pieces by the monster that made this mess," wrote another in a witty attempt to explain the dog's behavior. So I thought you guys might get a kick out of that. I'm going to mention something in here because yesterday I talked about PG&E doing another power outage in California, and I mentioned, us here in Oklahoma, we're praying for you guys, especially the people that need medical attention, around the clock medical service with ventilators and different equipment like that, and we're praying for you here. And then a person had left a comment in the video from the podcast I uploaded, and they said that there was a petition, and I voice my opinion about stuff, which I do have the right to do that. I said that the people in California, are at the end of the day, responsible for who they vote in, or they're the ones that choose who they vote in, and then they vote these people in under promises that they're going to provide whatever means to empower the people. Well, I mentioned that the mayors and the people in the councils and the governor needed to get up and do something to try to help these people instead of holding press conferences. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with this stuff. Obviously, I'm not even there, but I get messages about it a lot. So this person mentioned that there was a petition to recall the governor. And if you guys want to sign that petition, I also added this in this link in the description below, and you guys can click on that and you can sign the petition. It looks like it's at 8,591 out of 9,000 goal. But I just thought that I would bring that up. And once again, here in Oklahoma, we're praying for the people in California as you guys go through a power outage. As I understand, it was going on today. And it'll probably last through Thursday or whenever they tell you guys that they're going to turn it back on. But I wanted to mention that with you guys. There's the picture there. It's in the link in the description below, and you guys can go there and sign that. One other thing I wanted to talk about before I sign off here is if you tune into this on YouTube, if I changed a bunch of stuff under the About section. And if you go to the About section of this page, you can see it here. You'll find the links for the Facebook, the Twitter, the streams on Twitch, Discord. It's also available on iTunes, CastBox, Podcast Addict. You can find Instagram. It streams on DLive simultaneously as this stream. My website is on here also. You can go to Spreaker, Google Podcasts, and Deezer, and this is available on all those. You can, like I said, check the email, and you can send stuff that way. And as this builds up, hopefully, more people will join in by calling in to the number that scrolls across the bottom of the screen. And I take the calls. It'll start getting more chaotic because I'll have to move around and do a lot more things. But there is a chat running, and it's not visible when there's no messages because I don't want to take up the screen. But you can chat and it'll pop up on the screen there. And you can call that phone number. That's also posted up in the About section here under the description of my channel. And that number scrolls across the bottom of the screen. You guys can chat, and then, like I said, I'll try to monitor the phone calls. It'll probably get a lot longer. The feeds or the streams will get a lot longer, but it's just building up. I've done this for years before. I have my press credentials. I wrote for local papers, and I had various experience in investigative reporting and journalism. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get off here. If you guys like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time tuning into this, subscribe to the channel. I try to go live around 7 or 7:30 because there's other guys that I like, that I actually love their channels. One is Dex J, and he's with Marfugal News. And then, of course, Marfugal TV and Marfugal News, Adam, with those guys. But I was doing this on a lower scale before all these guys started taking off, and before you could stream was even relevant back then. I took a break from it because some of the articles that I wrote got me in trouble in a small town, and inevitably got me arrested, and I kind of had to just back out on writing in general. I kind of stay away from that part of it because I have to go back to that town a year from this month, and I'm not trying to cause any more problems than I already caused there. Some of the articles I wrote brought the attention of the state bureau, and a lot of the people who I was exposing there got arrested or got fired or under investigation, and that bureau is still there investigating in that town. So this is me just getting back into it. But like I said, if you guys want Marfugal News and Dex is awesome at the technology stuff. I cover a little bit of technology stuff here, but I don't have the background or the experience like Dex has. Another one that I really like is Dabu77, and you guys should definitely go check him out. He does a lot on DLive, but yeah, and here's another thing. I try not to cover a lot of the stuff they cover. Sometimes we will cover the same stuff, but sometimes, we cover other things aside from that. Just they have the stuff they cover. I cover certain stuff, and I kind of pay attention so I'm not stealing, anything from what they talk about. But like I said, I'm small. I'm just trying to grow this out. But if you guys are interested, you can go to the About section, go under links. You can follow on all the stuff there. You can email me information at kingsmanreport2019@gmail.com. And you can always call in at 1-408-638-0968 and just enter the meeting ID number. That's 534-233-4758. And then you'll hit the pound sign twice, and that'll bring you to me. With the phone system that I use, which I use Zoom, I don't use Skype. I can take multiple callers at once, and if I have to, I can do video. But if you call, you'll be put into a waiting room, and from that waiting room, I can break out of what I'm doing here, and then I can go back into there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. Like I said, we're praying with you guys in California that are dealing with the stuff that's going on over there. If you guys are interested in any of the links that I covered or any of the news articles that I covered tonight, all of those links are in the description below this video. And you guys spread the word, try to get it out there, and we'll try to cover more things, just crazy news. I have other videos, I talk about the evolution of Project Bluebeam from 1937 to where it's at now. I talk about voice of God technology. I cover the fires. I cover the protests in various places, and just try to keep up on as much as possible. But there's so much news that happens, and information is always coming in everywhere through every outlet, and it's just kind of hard to keep up with everything. So once again, if you guys want to go to the About section, you can follow the links there. So my name is Ryan. This is the Kingsman Report. It's the news everyone ignores. Thank you guys for tuning in or watching this video. If you check it out, just subscribe, hit the notification button. I usually post this early on in the afternoon after I get everything situated what I want to talk about, and then you can click on one of those links and hit the reminder button, and it'll pop up before I go live. So until next time, Yah bless and shalom.